Welcome to If People Only Knew, the show that brings untold stories to light. I'm your host, Anna Matson. Let's get started. Welcome to the show. Today we have Joe Miller. I'm going to tell you, I'm kind of giving away one of my secret weapons here because, you know, a lot of people say that you are only as good as your sources in journalism, if you're a journalist or independent researcher or whatever have you. And when I have any question about like foreign policy, military, anything, he is one of the guys I go to. So I'm kind of giving up one of my sources here. Well, hi, Joe.
Well, I don't know everything, but just some basic stuff.
Well, you're a very good resource for me. I don't ever claim to know everything. And, you know, it's really good to have people to bounce ideas off of and stuff. So welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You came all the way from New York today to Michigan. Is this your first time in Michigan?
Yeah, it is.
Well, hopefully it's good. It's a good time of year.
The lunch was good.
Yeah, I always really appreciate in-person podcasts. It's just like so much easier in terms of like my equipment and stuff. Like I know I can rely on my equipment. But you know, virtual is fine. It gets the job done, but I prefer in person. So I really appreciate you making the trip.
Yeah, no problem.
So you were in the National Guard for 11 years. And every time you talk to me about your experience, I just learn more and more each time. And I'm like, wow. One of the things that kind of got me, you know, got us connected and some other veteran friends of ours is during RFK Jr.'s presidential run. You know, being an independent, I always kind of look at things objectively, I feel like, for the most part. And I would give President Trump credit his first term for being the peace president. I'm like, okay, like, you know, I do think there was a lot of failures during like COVID and everything, but I always said like, at least we had peace, you know, like that was his big thing. And I started talking to you guys and I'm like, oh, wait, maybe he wasn't like this huge peace president we all thought.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on that people don't really realize until they look into it.
Yeah. So tell us about you even deciding to get into the National Guard. What is the National Guard? How is that different than like joining the Army or something?
So like growing up, I always wanted to like join the service.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I wanted to, but at the time, so I had a girlfriend in high school, and at that point that was kind of holding me up from wanting to completely leave. And then I came across a National Guard recruiter, and they were like, oh, you know, you could stay at home, and then you'll go off to your training, and then you come back, and then you show up 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks during the summer, and you're good to go. And I was like, okay, cool.
Like the Army Reserves type of deal?
Yeah,
okay.
So it's essentially like that, but you're technically like a state soldier, and then the federal government can actually transition you into federal service under a different title order.
Oh, okay. Did you know that going in?
So I had an idea that I could, because, you know, you talk about a few of the things, because deployment is always a big deal. My mom was super worried about all that stuff. And, you know, being young and not really understanding, you know, you just thought it would be a cool experience to go around and do different things. But my plan originally was to join, go, come back, try to become an officer, and then, because that was the big talk. And then once you did that, you'd be able to expand. But once I actually went to basic and then came back, then I was kind of upset that I didn't go active, because I really liked the scenario for me. It just really fit. But then when I came back and then I saw like the dog and pony show. So for you, that's like just the political shenanigans behind the scenes that ruins everything that every service member knows about.
You're saying there's politics even in the military?
Oh yeah, it is bad. And I was like, I don't want to be a part in this. Because even like you'd have a state active duty for like a hurricane, a snowstorm or something, and you guys would show up and just be like, let's get the job done. Mm-hmm. And there'd be an officer who's like, with a colonel or a major, then when a two-star general would show up, they got to like drive them around and show them everything. And it's like, oh, get your crap together. They're coming over. We can't look bad. And when you're like, guys, we're trying to get stuff done, you know?
Yeah.
But I really love that side of it, that you're actually like a worker for your state and taking care of your community and like actual Americans and stuff, but then you still could go and get that experience overseas.
So how often, like even like your first year, what did your first year look like? Like training, like how often did you get deployed? Like,
so are you talking about like after basic and AIT or like right off of enlisting?
Right off, like you enlist, like what's the process?
So essentially when you enlist, you go to MEPS. That's where you do all your physical stuff. They verify that you're good to go. They schedule your basic training date. And then you get sent off. And then for me, I went to Fort Sill in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And then I was a 12 Novembers, which is a heavy equipment operator.
Okay.
So then I actually had to go to Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri to learn how to operate heavy construction equipment.
Okay.
And
so how long did that take?
Oh God, this is going to sound bad because I can't remember, but I want to say it was probably like 8 weeks for basic combat training or something like that. And then the rest, your AIT, which is your advanced individual training, because that's your job class. That changes all depending on what job you actually have.
Gotcha.
I can't remember off the top of my head how long that was, but
it
was like a week for each piece of equipment.
So after all your training, you get called like once a month, like you said, or whatever, that you have to work. But how often outside of that did you have to go and do something for the state?
So at that point in time, because I got in 2010, I want to say we were getting activated at least once or twice a year for like state active duty stuff for hurricanes and floods. And
Still not bad though.
Yeah. And then, but you could also volunteer to go to different trainings because there's always new equipment, new stuff that you have to get trained on and then train everybody else on. Mm-hmm. So that was also part of it. So I like doing that because it was like you could split up your civilian job. So when you were getting tired of one, you'd go to the other. You get tired of that one, go back.
Yeah, I was going to say, so it was like part-time. Did you do other work?
Yeah, so at that point in time, I actually, I bounced around. I installed granite countertops, and then...
You can install my countertops.
Oh, dude, I don't want to do that again. It's so heavy. It's absolutely insane. And like trying to get the seams right and everything on those.
Too funny.
I could, but my back probably couldn't handle it now. But then I moved on from that, and I was working as an irrigation specialist, so like installing just like sprinkler systems and stuff, and I eventually worked up to be the supervisor of the irrigation division at a landscaping company. So
when did things start to change? Like when did you get that call, or what happened that you went overseas?
So that entire time, so each unit has like a training rotation, so they're constantly preparing to deploy.
Wow.
And that training will change based on what the end goal is. And we got to a point where like I was trying to volunteer for all this stuff. There was a bunch of other people. So there was a group of us that were trying to volunteer because we wanted to serve, because in the National Guard, you don't get all the same benefits as an active duty service member.
Okay.
So you're trying to get on the specific federal title order and then serve for a certain amount of time, and then you receive those benefits. So that was like a very big reason to volunteer. I got kicked off of like 3 other deployments because these units were trying to go, but then they didn't meet the criteria or something happened. They got canceled. And eventually I volunteered to go with the 1156 out of Camp Smith. But I actually had to turn down a promotion at that time and reclass as an interior electrician to go.
Oh, wow.
So, and then I actually, because at that point I was an E5, I was up for an E6, so I was a sergeant, up for a staff sergeant. I turned down the promotion, and I filled in an E3, which is a private first class spot to deploy.
Wow.
And when I got to the unit, they didn't realize that I was an NCO, and they actually gave me an M249 saw, like to be a machine gunner.
Wow.
And then by the time they realized I was an NCO, they were like, okay, well, we're going to move you around, but it's too late to change what you're carrying. So then I was like, how am I supposed to be a team leader who's like supposed to direct people, but also be the one providing suppressive fire if something happens? And they were just like, you'll figure it out. Like, keep up the good work.
Wow. So going back a little bit, now you knew that being deployed was a possibility. Do you think everyone, like all the people around you, did everyone else know that?
No, not most people don't know that the National Guard deploy.
Wow.
So, and a lot of us think that they're just like a state level thing. And
I was about to say, like, is the
national... Think, like, you show up and you're doing, like, a barbecue and doing hot dogs and camping out with your friends, when that's not the case.
Wow.
It used to be, but it isn't anymore.
So it's safe to just say that, like, the National Guard is, like, your state's army?
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
Because you're also considered, like, the oldest branch because you're technically a Minuteman, which is, like, the original.
Gotcha.
Continental,
So Wow. I can't imagine. I can't imagine like signing up to be in my state to help with like natural disasters and stuff. And then all of a sudden you're being deployed overseas. Like that's crazy.
Well, what's real crazy. So like you go to your job training, you get specialized in your training, which essentially is just like, hey, here's a crash course. We're throwing any of this stuff. Like check the box. And then you get to your unit and then stuff happens and you go out and you're like, I'm not qualified to do this. Like, I've never done this before. And they're just like, you got to get it done. There's people in need and you just go do it. And you're like, all right, guys, so let's go.
Yeah. Now, how many years was it? Okay, so you get into the National Guard. How many years was it until you deployed?
About 6.
Wow. Okay, so then 6 years happens. Like you said that you were trying to get deployed. How long were you deployed? Where did you go?
So it was roughly a year from start to finish, and that includes like all the training up to, and then the demobilization process at the end.
And then what happened?
So
is it classified? Can you talk about it?
No, I can talk about it. So when I first got onto this deployment, I was like, okay, this is gonna suck because it was to Kuwait. And everybody knows like Kuwait's established. So it's like a voluntary prison sentence. You're just going to be out in the middle of nowhere. You're going to have a USO, a chow hall, like a movie theater, like all this stuff, but you're not going to be able to really do anything. So It's like, I deployed, but did you actually deploy?
Oh, okay.
And then we get out there and then there was like the transition between the old unit and our unit. So all the leadership had to like figure out all the missions that were going on, figure what missions we would be going on. And then that's when we figured out that they actually, at this point in time, were taking a lot of conventional troops, giving us fragmented orders, and then sending us out to do things. Okay. So they didn't actually have to show that the personnel numbers were in those places.
Gotcha.
I got grabbed originally to go into Iraq, where I was in Taji. And when I first got there, we were working on like ammo supply points, just setting them up. And when I was heading into Taji, everybody was getting like kind of like a flu. Okay. But to go into the next stage, I had to get an anthrax booster. And this is when I started like having all my medical stuff from here on out. So like we went to the troop medical center and they do like a health questionnaire. And I essentially was like, yeah, I have a fever, a runny nose, like all this different stuff. And they're like, well, we shouldn't really be giving this to you right now, but it's just a flu that's going around. You'll be all right. So they gave me the anthrax booster.
Wow, that's a big no-no.
Yeah.
Even like this is like a thing. Like, like regardless what people think about vaccines, like it is on like the label of vaccines to not get one if you are sick. If you are running a fever or anything, you should not be getting a vaccine because your immune system is already shot because you're sick. And what does a vaccine do? It provokes an immune response. So, that doesn't sound like that was very smart.
Well, a lot of stuff in the Army comes down to the metrics. So it's essentially just, taking all the data and making sure everyone's green. Like, are you up to date on your shots? Do you have all these qualifications done? Do you have this done? So if you're a red, the unit's getting hounded because it doesn't look good on their readiness.
Gotcha.
So they just try to get everyone green no matter what.
Now, did they make you get vaccines like even to enter the National Guard or before you deployed and everything?
Yeah. So when you actually go into basic training, so like you get a shit ton of shots, especially if you don't have your shot record. Then you'll have to a point where like you have 4 needles in you at one time.
Wow.
And it's literally
so they
like,
do it all at the same time too?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
It honestly makes you think of like a meat packing facility or something. Like all the soldiers are in line. You come around the corner, you hold up your ID card, and you start to say your name so they can verify it's you, and then they just like stick you. And some of us have got like 8 shots all at one time, and then they give you a big massive. They call it the peanut butter shot, but it's pretty much just a big thing of antibiotics because your immune system's suppressed, and there's a bunch of people who came from all over the country into one place, so they're like, okay, we got to give you this to make sure that you're going to be okay.
Wow. Okay, so then you get the anthrax and...
Yeah, so I get the anthrax. We end up going into Taji. As soon as we get there, I'm like, guys, I'm feeling like dog crap. Like, I grew up on a farm, so we did not go to the doctors unless, like, you were going to die. And at that point, my squad leader was like, dude, you're not working. You go to the... we had, like, a little sick call area.
Okay.
And at that point, there's, like, a casualty collection point for people coming off the front line. And then you have your own like aid station sick call area. And they're like, don't go into that one because that's like, that's for legit casualties, go to the aid station. So I went there, and the doctor who was there, he pulls open this big, like, massive encyclopedia. What's your symptoms? And they're trying to figure it out. Yeah, he's, like, going through. And he's like, yeah, it just sounds like you got a flu or something. Here's some ibuprofen and some Cepacol. Just take this. You'll be fine. And each day, I just was getting worse. My throat was getting to the point where I couldn't swallow. I couldn't eat. I was spitting in a water bottle. And everybody just said I looked like a bag of ass. So
he didn't, like, test you for anything?
No, not really.
Wow.
It was just kind of like, well, what are we supposed to do? You got the flu.
Yeah.
And then my squad leader kept sending me back to the point where they were getting mad that I was coming back to sick call.
Wow.
And this was for like maybe 4 days at this point. He's like, I already told you what the matter is. Like, And I got to the point where my tonsils swelled up so large that it actually blocked off my windpipe and I couldn't breathe.
Oh my gosh.
And the other team leader was taking me to the aid station. And he ended up taking me into the casualty collection point because I was passing out. And he pretty much carried me in there. And they called over the sick call doc. And there was other countries in there too because, we worked together with a bunch of other countries. And those officers, like, lit that guy up.
Wow.
And they actually medevaced me to the hospital in Baghdad.
Wow.
And they were like, if that didn't happen, I probably would have died because I wouldn't have been taken care of because I actually had that much of an adverse reaction because my immune system was so suppressed. But at that point in time, nobody even took it into consideration that I had an anthrax vaccine.
Wow.
And then that's when they found out I had mono. So I didn't just have the flu, I had mono. And that's why it was so much worse.
Now, is mono... Like, is that treated by something or is that just a virus? I don't even remember.
So I think it's just a virus. They call it the kissing disease.
Yeah.
It can pass by like the flu, like
I just don't know if that's something that you can get like an antibiotic for or something.
They ended up putting me on antibiotics and then gave me some type of steroid and stuff. And then they pretty much were like, you're not supposed to be anywhere with mono. Like, this could spread everywhere. So they put me on quarters.
Well, good thing you weren't kissing all the troops.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's like, which local were you trying to, like, hook up with? And I'm like, don't start that. Because there's a family readiness group page when you're gone. And as soon as, if somebody even just jokes about something, I'm like, I don't need my girlfriend and my family, like, hearing some rumor that something happened. And
wow.
It gets crazy.
So, I mean, did you heal up and stuff after that, after they started putting you on all that stuff?
Yeah, so essentially at that point, what they should have done was at the very least sent me back to Kuwait because I was like a risk. But they didn't want to like cause a bunch of problems, I guess. So they sent me back to Taji and were like, just stay in your room.
Okay.
And at that point, we were staying in like these connexes that had like T-walls up and stuff because we were taking random like artillery fire and whatnot. And I just pretty much stayed in there for almost a month.
Okay.
And I broke out in like hives all over my body from my head to my toes.
Oh my gosh.
And they were like, you're a unicorn. Like, this doesn't ever happen. And I was just like trying to figure out why, And then it was probably like the last week of that, I was trying to like, hey, let me come out, guys. I want to do something. I've been locked in this freaking room. Like, I could only come out to use the bathroom. They had to bring me food and everything. And so I finally get out, and then I'm actually like doing some work for a week. And then I got called to go out into Syria, attached to a 5th Group Special Forces with a Special Operations Joint Task Force, doing something where at that moment they were like, we can't tell you what's going on, but they need your help.
Okay.
You got these qualifications. You're a good worker. They need you.
Okay.
So they pulled me out there to help those guys.
And how was it?
So that was kind of crazy. That was like, I'm just a pogue, all right? So a person other than grunt. So also as a National Guardsman, it's like I wasn't really prepared for that. Mm-hmm. So they were making sure that like they grabbed people that they knew like would just get the job done and do what needed to be done. So I essentially am like going through the process of on my own of getting out there. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, don't know what's going on. Just got over all this sickness. I'm still not really feeling completely up to par. And then I get out there with the guys and find out that we're literally out in the middle of fucking nowhere with one SF team. And there's just like a group of us engineers that need to make a base. So we're like, okay. So we just went to town and started helping them out. Mm-hmm. And then from there, they really liked the work we were doing. So they kept us on and like had us do stuff and go out on different missions with them. And that was really cool. But apparently our, I don't know if it was just our battalion or a brigade, like they wanted us out of there. they wanted us back. I don't know what that was about, but
Interesting.
yeah.
You know, it's funny. I'm reading this book about George Washington, and it really has like changed my perspective on a lot of things, more things that we'll get into a little bit later too. But, you know, it's funny because George Washington never went to college, but like at the time, like he was basically like a doctor or a scientist that you would think of now. His troops, he always made sure they were vaccinated. Smallpox was big at the time, but vaccines were totally different back then. What they describe in the book is that they would literally just take a needle to someone who had a mild case of smallpox.
I was like, take out the pus or something.
Yep. Poke them. Yep. In a, yep. And just poke the healthy person. And that was that. That was their vaccines. And I remember reading too, there was at one point, George Washington said, don't even go bathe in this lake or something, because a lot of people, other troops that had smallpox were in that water and stuff. Like he was very careful about those things, but it's just crazy to see how far we've come. Like just going from, we're just going to take a needle and poke you with, you know, a live virus to now these vaccines are like this whole concoction. Like there's a whole bunch of other things like in the vaccines today. And you know, even though we know better, we don't do better. Like we know we're not supposed to give people vaccines who have a fever, but yet they did that to you. So, yeah. So what happened after? Did you end up starting to feel better eventually? I mean,
So at that point, things got kind of rough because where we were literally out just in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So like field sanitation, like you're talking about, like I read that book, George Washington, where he like realized field sanitation, all this logistics was like literally what kept everything going. Mm-hmm. And we had to learn all that because we had actually like trained on it. Wow. We had just had all of the check the box qualifications to go, you know? So we're like doing all this stuff where it's like, does anyone have any books on this or SOPs? Like we got to figure this all out. It was just
now, is that the same for the Army too? Like they're not really trained in everything? Or...
Well, so it's like each unit has its own specialty, but they have these basic minimum qualifications they need to make to deploy. Okay. So those are what they all check off. And then anything on top of that is like, you guys just need to be doing your own hip pocket training and stuff to give yourself qualifications to do that.
Oh, wow.
That's the big thing as an NCO that I try to tell people, like, the difference between when you come an NCO and you're lower enlisted is you should be able to pick up any manual, read through it, and qualify yourself and your soldiers on without ever having prior experience. That's how they try to make it, so that way you can figure it out.
Wow. It's like the Farmer's Almanac.
Yeah, essentially. Well, it's funny because you're dealing with stuff that like you never thought, and like at that point I was a horizontal and a vertical engineer. Like I'd never put up a HESCO, which is like the big burlap sacks with the metal mesh. Okay. Like I'd never put one of those up my entire time in. And that was like, oh my God, we got to put up a HESCO now. Like, how do we do this? And it was like, that's where you started relying on some of the other guys who had deployed before and some of the other leaders and stuff.
So how was everyone else? I mean, like everyone in your, what is it called? Brigade?
Well, at this point, we probably had maybe like 2 squads worth of guys.
Okay. And so like what's their health like and stuff at this point?
So at that point things started getting rough because since we were out in the middle of nowhere, we actually got to the point where we could only get airdropped in ammo and water. Wow. And we got to the point where they're like, you guys shouldn't be eating MREs anymore. Like this is not good for your system. So they actually brought a guy in to give us all a cash advance. So we could start buying food off the locals and stuff. So we were trading with refugees and working with the partner forces to like get stuff. We had our own chickens for eggs. Some of the guys, we actually had, we found what was it? A lamb or a goat? I got pictures, but we found it. And like, everyone's like, you grew up on a farm. So I'm over there like scraping the maggots out of it. And we had like the antiseptic spray. We're trying to take care of it. And then we traded it with the refugees. And then like the next day they brought us in some food and we were eating like this mystery meat. And I'm like, guys, I don't know if we should eat this. So like a bunch of people started getting sick because like we were eating some random food. And let's be honest, the sanitation's not really so good. And I had gotten a water well running that the civil affairs hadn't been able to get running for like 6 months. But that's luckily because of my irrigation background. And we found out they were using that for cooking and stuff. But it had fecal matter in it. The division ended up having to send out a field sanitation team later because after we had been there for like 5.5 months, we came back and a bunch of us had parasites and all this different stuff.
Dude.
I actually was probably the worst out of everyone. Thank God for my brothers over there. They took good care of me, like covering down and stuff. There were times when I was straight up just like passing blood.
Wow.
Like it was just blood. And I had like passed out on the ground when the SF dudes brought me in and was like, you guys got to give him a couple IVs. Like it was bad.
Wow. And it's just so funny, like when you think about, like, let's just take measles, for example. Like people freak out in the States about measles, even though in the past 25 years, really no one has died from measles. There's been 3 deaths that they say is from measles. But when you actually look at those individual cases, they died for other reasons. It wasn't measles. But you see the numbers worldwide and it's like scary. Like all these people die from measles. They're not really dying from measles, like COVID. Okay. Most people in the US didn't actually die from COVID. It's because our chronic disease is so bad here that like COVID was just the one thing that pushed them over the edge.
Yeah, wasn't the average comorbidity like over 2 or something like that? 2
yeah,
or 3?
It was like 3. Like, so people had like diabetes, asthma, and stuff like that. And then COVID just, like I said, pushed them over
because
the edge.
of all this stuff, after I came back, when COVID hit, they were like, you're a high-risk person. You need to take this. And I was kind of like on the fence. And I'm actually one of the few that did because I was like, for me, I was like, I really am a high-risk person.
Yeah, wow.
Because at that point, my immune system was just shot. I hadn't gone through my whole health process movement yet.
Yeah.
To figure all of it out.
So, but like when you look at the data from like other countries on like I think Europe has like 15,000 cases of measles or whatever this year, where we have like 1,000, and we're a lot bigger. So, but it's a lot higher in other areas. Like other areas, you have to worry about this stuff because of what you're talking about. Like they literally have fecal matter in their water. Like in the US, it's not something we have to worry about here. Like sanitation is really key to our health. Like a lot of people attribute vaccines to saving millions of lives after all these years. But you got to understand that around the same time that vaccines really started to take off is the same time people started washing their hands. Like that wasn't a thing before. That's when indoor plumbing became a thing. Like that's a really big help. The Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act to get where we don't have fecal matter in the streets anymore. Antibiotics became big.
It's kind of crazy because I feel like we're so disconnected. We think it's so far long ago when it really wasn't. It
really wasn't.
Like my grandparents had an outhouse at their house.
Yep. Like it's literally, it's been like 70 years for all of these advancements. So it's just interesting when people say like vaccines are like the ultimate thing that saved everything, when really around the same time, a bunch of other stuff happened too. So it's like vaccines definitely may have helped with some regard, but you really, I mean, antibiotics helped a lot too, guys. Like cleaning, washing your hands, that helped a lot too. Not having feces in your house, that helped too. Yeah. So I wish people would just look at the full picture a little bit more instead of just attributing the one thing to everything. But I digress. But getting back to it, okay, so like, what happened? Like, what happened after that? Like, they're taking you to the doctor, like, you're getting infusions. What's going on?
So we actually had a special operations resuscitation team there with us. So they were essentially like this group that's there. So if they take like any type of field casualty, they can treat them right there. Mm-hmm. So they were taking care of us. They gave me this massive bottle of pyramide hydrochloride, which is like, you know, a stool hardener. And they're like, you can take up to like 6 of these a day. And then everybody was picking on me because like they're like, can I get my candy for today? Because everybody had the shits. So then I'm like handing out. I'm like, don't take more than 6 of these a day. You got to spread them out. And I didn't realize that the way those work is like they slow down your entire digestive system.
Oh, okay.
So you can actually like give yourself heart attacks and stuff with them and like mess it just up long term. But like we have stuff to do, so you can't be out there shitting your pants.
Yeah.
So like after we got done with all of that shenanigans, which was, I mean, it was a really awesome experience. But we come back, I'm going through like getting a checkup for like a post-health thing before coming back home for demobilization. They just find out we all have parasites. We're doing like stool samples, which at that point, let's be honest, they were just water samples. And that's when they sent the field sanitation team out to like see how bad it was from the division. And everybody at that point was like, oh my God, this is bad. And I'm trying to tell the doctors, like, listen, I was worse than everyone else. I need you to really follow up with me. Like, this isn't good. And they just played it off like, you guys just didn't wash your hands. Because they're stuck in Kuwait, right? So they think everyone's just in this big, massive base with a movie theater. And they don't think we're, like, out in the middle of fucking nowhere doing shit that, like, at that point in time, you couldn't talk about as a New York National Guardsman, right? So it's just like, just get over it. Then I actually get another anthrax booster. Because at that point, it had been like 6 months.
Wow.
Which then probably messed my immune system up even more. And at that point,
you were still sick at the time.
And they had me on random courses of antibiotics, and I had taken some when I was out in the field, which is messing with your gut microbiome and all this other stuff. So then, like, we come home demob, and then I start having, like, all these IBS issues, and I'm still, like, crapping blood on occasion. My wife's finding me, like, passed out in the bathroom. It's bad.
Wow.
And then I actually come home and they're like, okay, we're putting in that, like, all the stuff happened in theater. Because since I was out there with 5th Group, nothing got put in. Like, when you show up to a troop medical center for a sick call, now you're in the system as you were seen for this. So now there's a paper trail. But if you get seen and you're out in the field, if you have a medic, they're supposed to, like, write down a slip and you keep it on you and take it back. So you have paperwork that you were seen for something. Well, when I was out there with those guys, like, you didn't get paperwork. They just took care of you and then you went on your fucking way. Wow. So I come back.
Seriously? They don't even have, like, a computer system that they put everything
No, we were out in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like, we didn't have internet until we actually bartered with the refugees and paid that. So this is, like, aid that came from us. And now we're buying it with our, like, U.S. aid money to have internet. So that way they could actually run their own talk. Like, our SF guys to have contact. So, like, it's bad. So essentially, it's like the way this was all working, it's
wow.
It's
hopefully
just bad.
Today it's a little bit different. I mean, with Starlink, hopefully our troops have a little bit more.
I would hope so, because it would make it a lot easier.
Wow.
So we even had, like, a satellite phone. You'd have to send a guy up on the roof, and it'd be like, hey, like, call between, like, 2 and 3 in the morning. So then everybody would try to get up at that time. You'd be like, hey, pre-check, get up on the roof with the satellite. And you'd be like, turning it. And you'd be like, do you hear the beep? And then you'd get the final tone. It'd be like, beep, 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 beep. You're like, hold it right there. And then you'd make your phone call and then do your quick 2-minute, I love you. How you doing? How's everything going? Where are you at? I can't tell you anything. Just tell me how you're doing, because I can't talk.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, were you guys, like, safe? Were people trying to, like, take you out?
So the compound that we were at got attacked, but it just happened to be attacked while we were gone. Okay. We were actually on our way back. We were like, oh my God. And when we got back, all the guys were like, thank you so much for all of the stuff you made, because, like, you saved our lives. Because the ISIS members had actually infiltrated our partner forces. They stole, like, stencils for the trucks. They got all the different tatas. So they got flags from the Syrian Democratic Forces, and they came into the compound with a convoy that was mimicking partner force convoy. Okay. They even knew how many times to flash their lights to get inside the compound. And when they got inside the entry control point and got up to the gate, they even got out and, like, said, oh, hey, friends, and they came out and went to shake hands. They started shanking people, and that's when the whole thing blew off.
Wow. Well, good thing you weren't there.
Yeah. And then when we got back, we had to help clean up, which was kind of gross. But
okay, so
at this point, I guess we were at, like, the demo process. So they had put in there, like, was treated for this in a combat zone. So it was like, when you go talk to anyone, they can't not treat you, because they'll say it's not service connected. But they're like, you got to get to the VA as soon as you get home, and they'll take care of you at the VA. Yeah. So I come home, I'm listening to all the old timers, because they're like, don't fuck around, kid. You get your ass in there and you take care of yourself. I fucked around. I spent 20 years. Some of them are even, like, guys who have been in for, at this point, almost 30 years, and they're now just figuring it out. Wow. They're like, get in there. So I get into the VA, and I'm, like, listing all my stuff. I have all my paperwork, like, straight up from my demob. And I come in, I show them all the stuff, and they're like, we can only treat you for, like, one thing at a time. And I'm like, okay, well, I have, like, 8 different problems that need to be addressed right now, and you're telling me you can only, like, do a bunch of x-rays and then, like, actually start checking each thing individually.
Why is that?
I have no idea.
Is that, like, still today? Like, they only
I'm not sure, because I've since like that time, I have gone less and less to the VA because of how awful the care had been. And it's not because of the staff. Like, everybody wants to help you.
Yeah.
It's the processes
Bureaucracy.
and the bureaucracy that's all attached to it.
Well, that's really unfortunate. I know a Marine veteran, he's like 85 now, and I really should know this a lot better. My husband knows all the facts more than I do. It was when, didn't they like bomb a place, Vietnam? Didn't they like put a whole bunch of chemicals or something?
Talking about Agent Orange to like take out all the foliage for the jungles and stuff?
I think so. Something like he got injured basically.
Yeah, probably, because they essentially were using this chemical to like kill all the habitat. And they were saying it's safe, guys, and then ended up causing all these neurological problems.
Yeah, I think that's what he was involved in. If it wasn't that, it's something very similar. So he obviously got disabled in service, and 85 now, and it took him years. I mean, I've known him for, I don't know, like 8 years, and just last year I know he's been fighting ever since then, but maybe even before that, and he just got approved for 100%. Of his medical stuff paid for by the VA, but before it was 90%. And it's like, why does he have to fight for 10% more?
Did he get helped with the PACT Act after that passed and all that stuff?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Because that just kind of like grabbed a bunch of different stuff and also put it in the list of things that like fell under automatic.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly like what happened, but it's just crazy to me that our veterans have to fight that much when they fought.
Yeah.
You fought for our safety here and everything, and it's like, why can't we do these things?
Well, and it's hard too, because at the same time, you got to like, you go to work with people, right? And there's some people that are incompetent, some people that are just lazy, other ones who don't, they could take care of themselves, they don't. It's the same thing in the military. It's the same people.
Yeah.
So you'll literally sit through briefings that are showing you like, hey, you need to go here. You need to do this. These are the benefits that are available for you if you do this. Mm-hmm. You'll sit through 8 hours of briefings, and then 95% of those people will never show up to take advantage of those benefits. So it's like, it's a mixed bag. And then the ones that actually show up, then you got to fight that whole bureaucracy side of the department.
Yeah.
And then you get the few people in between that like, I've been through here, you're in a hole. Like, I'll get a shovel and help dig you out. Like, let's do this. Don't give up. It always sucks, but when you get to the end, like, you'll be all right.
Aw. Well, so you come back, go to the VA. You said you're not going to the VA so much anymore. Do you use like private insurance now?
Yeah, so I actually have TRICARE through my medical discharge.
Oh, okay. So explain that.
So since I had so much stuff that met a certain rating, I can't remember what the percentage is, I was able to get put in for a medical discharge. And then I had to go through the whole medical discharge process. And that was a shit show because that's completely separate from all that other stuff. And essentially you have to just show like all of your service and connect everything. And then from there, it's like, what percentage do you have? What do you qualify for? And then I just met a certain threshold. So then I ended up getting TRICARE.
Okay, so you can go to like any hospital or any doctor now?
Yeah, so I can use the TRICARE. My wife also has some private insurance, so we use both. And then, but I could still go to the VA for things. So sometimes I'll use it for prescriptions or because like it's so bad at the VA, at least where I am in Western New York. I had to go in. They wanted me to do like massage therapy for my sciatica because sometimes I'll feel like I'm like pissing myself or like I'm bleeding, but I'm not. And I went in. Massage therapist, sweetest, nicest lady. She took the job because there was an opening and she wanted to do something with herself. And she's talking to me and she's like, I'm really sorry. I'd like to get you back here in a few weeks, but my next opening's in 6 months.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my God. And she's like, yeah, I'm the only one for the VA here. And I'm like, then it makes me feel bad because I'm seeing all these old guys on top of it, you know, and then they all talk to me, you know, and they're just like, it's sad, you know, your young guys got to go through all that, but I'm happy you're here. But it's just everything falls on the system. It's not the people. And it's just frustrating.
How far is your VA from you?
I think for me, it's like a half hour.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
I think some people have to go pretty far.
Yeah.
So it just depends.
And then there's like an outpatient clinic that's closer for me. So I can go for like my primary care doctor stuff and blood work.
Oh, that's good.
And luckily my primary care doctor, he's pretty freaking awesome.
That's awesome.
He's been kind of in this health movement too, so he's seen all this stuff. So when I started talking to him about different things, I remember when I first came to the VA and I was like, guys, I got an anthrax booster. I had mono, all the stuff that's going on. I think that's contributing. They're like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. And now he's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Of course, this is why this is the way it is. Like, you need anything, you just call the nurse's desk. I will call you back today and like help you get what you need or get you a referral or whatever. I'm like, thank you.
Wow. That's crazy. You always like when you know something, like a lot of people, like they know their body, they know when something's wrong, but then, you know, other people always, they know better than you know yourself and try to tell you your life story.
Yeah, this has really like taught me that each one of us really has to advocate for our own health because no one else can actually make the decision for you. And that's why like informed consent is everything. And now even like when I take my kids in to get their shots and I'm like, I really would like these spread out so that way like the adverse reaction time, we're not getting multiple shots. Yeah. And they're like, well, they're safe. I'm like, listen, I was literally medevaced because I had an adverse reaction to an anthrax vaccine. You can't tell me that they're safe. Like, I'm weighing the outcomes and we're making the decision as parents. I, at the very least, would like to spread these out. So during the adverse event period, like
the Childhood Vaccine Act that gives vaccine manufacturers immunity literally says that they are getting this immunity because vaccines have unavoidable risks. Like they have unavoidable side effects. You know, it's just this is what kills me. The CDC website, literally before Kennedy took office, okay, it's been on there for years. It says any medication has side effects. Yeah. So why, when you start talking about vaccine side effects, you become like this crazy conspiracy theorist? Like it literally makes no sense. Or people think it's just pain in the arm. That's it. Like, come on, guys.
Well, it's hard too because I feel like it's not even just the vaccine stuff. It's everything. Everybody just wants to go to the far opposite ends of what's going on. And the reason why I get frustrated with all that, I was like, each individual person has an individual scenario that's different for them that they need to be making a choice for. And like, that's why we're in the United States of America where we literally have independence and like all of this freedom to do that. So leave every single person alone to make their health choice and they have to live with the outcome of their choice. And stop trying to blame like them on you when, okay, well, you believed in masks. Well, you could wear a mask. You know, you believed in separating, that don't get within 6 feet of me and I'll stay 6 feet away from you, even though that doesn't matter either. Like, it's just, that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
And that's the thing is like, anytime you start talking about vaccines, people just say, well, you're anti-vax. And it's like, okay, well, you obviously were injured because you had vaccines. So, I mean, how does that make sense that you would be anti-vax? And then, you know, like I have a friend that is very immune compromised when it comes to chickenpox. So even though she's had chickenpox numerous times, if she's around someone who has it, she'll get it. So the chickenpox vaccine has been a lifesaver for her. But there are people that get the chickenpox vaccine, but then they get shingles later in life that is more dangerous. So that's where we need to have informed consent. Okay. Like, yeah, this may protect your child from chickenpox, but just so you know, they're more likely to get shingles later. Like, do you want to weigh that risk? Blah, blah, blah. But that's not what you get today. Like, you get gaslit into thinking, like, this is your only option. If you don't do this, you're a horrible parent. And
the first time I brought it up, they brought in, like, a little booklet of, like, why vaccines are safe. And it was from, like, 1986 or something. And it was just like, don't be afraid.
My God.
I'm not saying that. Like, what are you guys doing?
Man. So how long was it? So you came home after being deployed because you said 6 years in, so like another year. So were you in for like another 4 years when you came back home?
Yeah. So I came back home and at this point I didn't really know, like I didn't bring together the whole vaccine. I just thought it was the mono. Like I had mono and it just messed my system up. And so at this point, I also had a torn meniscus in my right knee that I didn't even know about. I just knew that my knee was blowing out and I would randomly like fall down and stuff. So like I had to get, and that was another thing. So like I
just randomly fall down.
It was well, you know, I was always busy working and doing stuff. So you just got to do what you got to do.
Totally normal.
Yeah. I'd like bend down and be like, like a door. It was bad.
Gosh.
And I thought when they told me, I thought it was just like an outer, but it was like all the way on both sides. So it was just like floating around in there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So he showed me the scar tissue like before and after, which was really cool. But so when I even went to go schedule that through the VA, they told me they couldn't get me in for a consult for like 6 or 7 months. But meanwhile, they told me to stay home, stop working, and just collect short-term disability. And I just came home and I was like, my girlfriend's at home, I'm at home, I have bills, and at that point I was used to working like 60 to 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't survive off of disability. So I ended up having to put in for my TRICARE extension coming off of active duty, because you still get an extension of that for a certain amount of time by proving it was service connected. And I had to use that for my surgery. And then I used my consult as a follow-up. And when I showed up to the VA and was like, oh yeah, here's all my stuff from my surgery, they were like, what the hell did you do? And then I was just like, yeah. Wow. But then the bureaucracy with that, like, they even tried denying that was service connected later during my medical discharge. And I literally pulled the paperwork out showing that they had extended my active duty TRICARE to have the surgery because it was service connected. And I'm like, this it comes
everything's
back.
a fight.
Everything's just a fight. And having to keep track of all your, but any person that you get in contact with who's been it, they're like, get a binder, and it's your I love you binder. Put everything in here. Because it's up to you to take care of yourself, not anyone else.
See, it's just like, it seems like from what you're describing, they almost they go into the situation thinking that what you're dealing with was not from your service. And then you have to prove otherwise. Where it's like, why don't we have it the opposite? Like, why doesn't the VA and the other bureaucrats, whatever, come in thinking that, okay, you just got deployed, you're having this issue. It's probably because you were just deployed and it was while you were in service. Like, then you can prove that it wasn't.
Well, what's weird is, like, you actually, before you deploy, you take a pre-mobilization health assessment. Mm-hmm. And it's this massive bubble form. You fill it all out with all your previous medical history. You sit down and with a case manager and they talk through your health. And this is at the point where, like, even if your grandma passes away and you're like, yeah, my grandma passed away 6 months ago, they'll literally, like, you can't have firearms. And they'll pull you to the side and talk to you, which is why mental health is also a stigmatized issue, which it shouldn't be. We should take care of ourselves. And then you take a health assessment while you're over there, and then you take a post-deployment, and then there's like a post-deployment health assessment. So each time you take it, it should keep track of your health. And a lot of people get to the point where they don't want to deal with the bureaucracy. They don't want to deal with the system. So they just put in there that they're okay. And I'm like, I guarantee if you go to a bunch of these service members and you look at all their stuff, even like we would have to do a medical readiness review every year. And I'm like, some of these soldiers would tell you that no one's ever died in their entire time in service that they know. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is the problem that this system is creating, because we're not actually taking care of things. It's all just a metric. You're all just a number. You're all just a color. Wow. And it's sad.
That's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Wow. So what's next? So you... That's just so depressing.
Well, so like at that point, like I was fighting to stay in because I loved being in the New York National Guard. I loved it. It was everything.
Yeah.
So I was fighting all this stuff. When I had my knee surgery, I had not a deployment. I had a drill that weekend. Mm-hmm. So I didn't need to show up. But it was our medical readiness review. So I was like, oh, shit, I could literally take my paperwork straight from my surgery and just hand it off to a case manager. Cool. And then I'll just sit in a cot for the weekend. I show up as an E5. I'm filling in as a platoon sergeant, which is an E7. And I get there. And meanwhile, I wasn't supposed to be there, all this different stuff. And then I got hounded because it just happened that my platoon was supposed to be running the range, but the platoon sergeant was gone, all this stuff. And I'm like, guys, I'm not even supposed to be here. And then I ended up running a range.
Oh, lovely.
Literally within a few days. Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh my gosh.
But it's just like, whatever, guys. Like, I'll take care of it. And they were like, should you even be here? I'm like, no, I shouldn't, but I'll take care of it. Like, whatever, fine. Let's go do this thing. It's just sitting up in a tower like, are you ready?
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. So anything else that happened, like, in the next few years? Like, anything crazy in New York that happened?
So essentially at that point, like, I got red flagged because of all my medical stuff. So I wasn't really allowed to, like, go to any trainings or any of the cool stuff, which I was really upset about because I loved all that. And I just tried to keep my guys all trained and got them ready. And then we were dealing with a bunch of different stuff because one thing, too, a lot of people don't realize is even if you're in the Guard, you have to maintain all the same qualifications as someone who's active duty.
Okay.
So, like, driver's license is this insane process. And in reality, everybody knows like the way their process is. You might be lucky to keep like one vehicle that you're actually like licensed to drive every year.
Why? What?
Because there's a whole process of like, you know how like you go get your driver's license, but first you have to go get a permit and you got to have so much time. And then after you have so much time, then you go in, you take your driver's test and they grade you. And then, hey, here's your license. It's kind of the same way in the Army side of it, but it requires like the process is a lot more elongated, especially if you're like a heavy equipment operator. So you're learning how to, drive dozers and hydraulic excavators, backhoe loaders.
Gotcha.
It's like every piece of equipment has some type of different training, and it's never just like, here you go. And then we also had like 916s, which were semi trucks with lowboy trailers to haul stuff, and that was just a whole nother lion.
So you never drove a tank?
No, never drove a tank. Drove dozers all the time. I was trying to get my master operator, but I didn't have a crane.
Oh, okay.
I had like a Hemet wrecker and like all this other stuff on there, but everyone's like, "How'd you get all this?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it." Because that's like, everybody knows like you get activated for a state active duty. They need somebody to drive this, and you're just like, "I'll do it," because if I break something, it's going to be me who's responsible anyways. I don't want it to be one of my guys.
Oh,
Next thing you know, they're like, "Well, you used that during that." Next thing you know, it appears on your license. Somebody adds it. And you're like, okay.
So, I mean, how did you leave? Like, what happened? Like,
So at that point, they asked me if I wanted to be medically discharged because I had been flagged for so long.
yeah.
And I had a bunch of people telling me, like, don't leave. Like, we could use you here. Like, I had my stuff going for me. I actually, that postponed my E6 promotion being red flagged. And it was just crazy because when I looked at the timeline, like, at that point I was young because I got in right out of high school. And it was just kind of crazy to see where everything was going. But I was just like, I got to get out because I'm one of those people where, like, if I'm a drain on the system, I shouldn't be here because I'm also affecting the unit's readiness.
Yeah.
And that's something too, like when you get into all this other talk of military readiness, it's like, well, I understand that because I was one of those people. So I went through that whole medical discharge process. And then I was working at Sumitomo Rubber as a changeover and alignment guy. So I was working on just tire building equipment, putting all the tooling and stuff on. And then eventually I was having some issues. So I stopped doing that. I'm doing the stay-at-home dad thing.
All because of probably a vaccine. Isn't that nuts?
Yeah, and that's what kind of frustrates me because I'm like, what if I did just have mono? I didn't get that anthrax booster because somebody actually followed the protocol that they were supposed to follow. And then, like, we just went on.
Yeah. So, I have senior kids and they're adorable. So
they're the best. They're mini me.
They're literally mini you. And so even though it didn't work out, I think you still have quite the life that you've built with your wife. So, life takes us in a lot of different directions and everything. And here you are. I never thought that I'd be, reporting on politics and stuff and doing all this, but, So I wanted to ask you, though, what do you think about, even though you knew that it could be a possibility that you could be deployed, a lot of other people didn't, know that was a possibility. What do you think about it in general? Like, we have a massive federal military. And, the states are supposed to have their own National Guard to take care of their own things. Like, what do you think about in general? Like, should the National Guard be deployed, especially if we're not even at war? Like, we don't even, we don't have any active wars right now. I mean, we don't have any declared wars right now. We'll say that. So why are the National Guard being deployed in the first place? Like, should that even be happening?
Well, I think the reason why it's happening is because we rely on them for the manpower. So active duty only has so many personnel, and they can get some work done. But when you're doing this nation building type stuff where you're just occupying areas for so long, like, you need manpower. You can't just expect people to be in these places and that's literally just their life. And we've gotten really reliant on reservists and National Guardsmen to fill that role to the point where people in our country don't realize that we're doing it, and we are. And there's a lot of pros and cons to it because it is nice to get that experience as a service member because, like, that just helps you be a better soldier You know, you learn a lot, you experience a lot. It exposes you to a lot that you would never get exposed to. So if certain scenarios arise, like, you are ready and capable. But at the same time, so like how you were saying, wouldn't that also affect like state readiness? When I came back to my parent unit, because I didn't deploy with the unit I was in. I was with the 152nd. I deployed with a brother-sister unit, the 1156. So when I came back and got transferred home, they were supposed to become like, what the heck do they call it? It's like it was a unit that was essentially ready to deploy at any time in case other units couldn't deploy.
Okay.
And we're a heavy equipment operating unit, right?
Yeah.
So we operate heavy equipment. It's not easy to just pick up all your toys and move them. Mm-hmm. So, like, when we have snowstorms in Buffalo and, like, all this stuff, like, if your equipment's right there, you can get on it and help the people.
Yeah.
But to do this, they were leaving all of our stuff up at Fort Drum so it could get shipped like that if it needed to. And then they were like, wow, this is really messing with readiness because, like, if we need the stuff, you have to send people all the way up to Fort Drum to grab the stuff and then bring it back or wherever you need it.
So you're saying being prepared to go overseas, it's actually hurting the states from being prepared.
It could be, all depending on how they're rolling it out and doing things.
That's something I didn't even think about.
Because you essentially take your equipment with you. Mm-hmm. So if you're gone, you're not here to help.
Now, I just looked it up to make sure my numbers were right. So we have about 750. That's the first thing that popped up, but I think we're actually at like 800 military bases around the world right now. And
seems like a lot, doesn't it?
It is a lot because the next country, I should look it up again. So
Meanwhile, I just want like 10 acres in my backyard. You know, like, come on, guys, what's going on here?
What are we doing? I'm going to pull it up so I make sure I give the right information. I hate when I accidentally give the wrong stuff. Okay, so...
It's good, though. You want to be truthful.
Yeah, I know estimates because I've looked it up before, but it's just been a hot second. I want to say the European Union is the next biggest with 60.
Yeah, that's all stuff the Kellys would know. Kelly and Roy.
Dang it. Hold on. Wait. This might be it. Yep.
I was just a worker. I just did what I was told.
Oh, man. See, I just need to do this stuff before we hit record, but here we are. Japan has 14 countries with the most. Countries with the most. That's U.S. bases. We have 14 U.S. bases just in Japan.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you look at it. Well, what a lot of people don't know is a lot of those bases they're manned by contractors.
Yeah.
So it's like we're not even just paying service members to work to maintain them. We're paying a lot of contractors.
I can't find it right now. I don't know why. I must not be having like the right search terms. But from what I remember, the next country, it's not even a country. It's the European Union has 60 bases. Russia,
it's like a mixture of all of them.
I think Russia has 20. So when we say peace through strength, like, is this strength to you, 750 bases, which, again, I think there's more like 800, but for a safe number, let's say 750. Like, do you think that's strength or do you think that's world domination?
Well, to be honest here, we see what just happened in Iran, and they're talking about how we use strength. Well, where did you fly those B-2 bombers from?
I don't know. Where did they fly them from?
They're talking about how they flew them, halfway across the world and back. It's like, well, you didn't need all of those military bases all over in the Middle East, now did you?
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. Didn't even think about that.
Yeah, like we have all this technology today. It's like, use it.
Yeah. So I just don't get it. Like, I just don't get, like, we could have half the bases that we have today and still have peace through strength. Yeah. We could have a quarter and still have well above what any other country has.
Well, and plus, like, us being over there and being in all these places, we're displacing the people, which is then causing the immigration crisis.
Yeah.
It's like, so what do you want?
And exactly, like, is that the reason why we need the National Guard to step in? Because even our service people are spread all throughout these 800 bases. Like, what are we doing? Like, and, I talked to you a little bit ago about how we have a huge shortage for people who want to be police officers now. So it's like, maybe if we didn't stretch our just our people willing to serve in some capacity so thin, maybe we'd have more people that want to be police officers because we're going to run into a situation in the next few years where like all these police officers are retiring and there's no one going
and that's
to
like
school.
in everything. That's not just police officers. That's like all these different trades and everything.
Yeah. Basically anything that
It's
doesn't
literally
require a college
everything.
degree.
Yeah.
And then
bad.
think about this. Everything that requires a college degree is going to be taken over by AI. So all of the jobs that are not going to be taken over by AI, we have a shortage of.
Yeah.
But we have plenty of jobs that will be obsolete soon. Like you won't even need me anymore because like Elon Musk is talking about making Vine where it's just AI videos, and TikTok is being taken over by AI videos right now. And it looks like a person, like they're using like the green screen feature. But you go to their profile and it's like a different person in every single video and stuff. And all of these people, I'm like, what are you doing? Because they're literally in the comment section, like arguing with AI, like with bots and stuff. I'm like, dude, like this is obviously fake. Like, I don't know.
Well, it even makes me wonder now, like even on Twitter and stuff, when certain people are commenting and you're like, I don't think this is actually a person. Because a lot of people now, like just when you have conversations, they at least try to talk to you.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Social media is something else. I wish Tulsi Gabbard actually said this on a Joe Rogan podcast years ago, that she wishes that we would all have to put our names online. So like, because people just hide behind like the anonymous accounts, and it's like, if you actually had to say it to my face, like I think you would talk a little bit different. So possibly like making people actually like identify themselves, it'll change their tune a little bit. But Joe Rogan was like, oh, but what about whistleblowers and stuff? Like sometimes you need to be anonymous.
I believe even Benjamin Franklin wrote some stuff using synonyms, didn't he?
I don't know. I haven't got that far in my
Didn't
history
he have
studies.
like a something be good name or something he used in the newspaper?
I don't know, but I'm gonna research it though.
Yeah.
Don't you worry.
Well, and apparently too, like some of them, he'd even write like competing articles, or some of the founding fathers, they'd like write competing articles.
See, like I said, I'm going through the different presidents right now. I'm almost done with George Washington, and then we'll go to the next one. So I'm learning all that history, and I want to go to DC soon and go to all the Smithsonians. I'm so excited.
That'd be sweet.
And I want to go to Mount Vernon. That's George Washington's home and stuff. Like, oh, can't wait.
There's just so much history.
I know. And that's the thing is like, I really believe that our political problems are actually educational problems. You know,
100%.
History repeats itself, but we don't even know our history to know what to expect. So I know we can't protect our rights if we don't even know our rights. And
that seems like a basic concept, huh?
Right? It seems very basic. And a lot of people couldn't rattle off what the first 10 amendments are and stuff.
Well,
You know?
and even if you know what they are, you like know the general, like, oh, this is what this is, but you don't know the actual verbiage.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I didn't know for the longest time that we have a right to jury trial and stuff until I started learning about all the vaccine issues and everything. And it's like, wait a minute. Why did our Congress pass a bill to give vaccine manufacturers immunity from jury trials? Like, but that's in our Constitution. Yeah. If we knew that, then we would be like, wait, what's going on here? Why would my elected official try to pass this law that's clearly unconstitutional? And this kind of goes on another thing that I wanted to talk about is, you know, the Constitution says that Congress is the one that is supposed to declare war.
Yeah. A very basic, simple concept that never really gets done properly.
This is a whole rabbit hole. We're going to go under. But let's take a short break real quick. No sponsors or anything, guys. I just need to take a break. And then we'll come back and talk about that. Welcome back. We were like, wait, what were we talking about?
Hooray, water.
Okay. So I asked you, if I remember correctly, about Congress being the one to have to declare war. And I was trying to think of like the most recent thing, and we just had like the 12-day war with Iran and Israel, where at first they were like, it's not our war, it's Israel's war. And then who was it? I think it was like Ted Cruz went on a podcast or something, and he was like, I think it was with Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, that was wild.
And he was like, it's our war. And Tucker was like, what did you say? He's like, it's Israel's war. It's like,
what's the population of Iran?
So I and many other people, including like Justin Amash and stuff like that, like we're like, hey, Constitution clearly says that Congress is the one that can declare war, not the president.
Yeah.
And the pushback I got is, we didn't declare war. And it's like, okay, if it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And if we're bombing Iran, then it's probably war. I mean,
we as a society have gotten so disconnected from what it should be like the definition of military action and war that I think we don't view it as such. And we skirt the lines with these authorizations of use of military force. Because if you were to put that in like a local situation, like say you had a local government that's going crazy and they were going to do something and you're like,
I know nothing about that.
Oh, we just bombed our local town. Like, okay, well, you didn't kill any civilians, but you killed the whole town board. Like, that wasn't war.
Yeah.
If anything, I'm like, that's kind of like an act of terrorism in a way when you think about it, because the whole point of Congress voting is to give that authorization to the president. And what made no sense to me with what happened with Iran was like there was a 60-day negotiation period.
Yeah.
And Congress knew that. Republicans have charge. Like, they have majority. So why wouldn't you support your president and say, hey, we're going to give you this AUMF, but it just has an exception of not using boots on ground.
Explain what that is to people who don't know.
So an authorization of use of military force is essentially Congress approving the president to be able to actually use offensive force, to actually use military and war power. And the problem here is everybody confuses, like, the need for that with any type of defense, self-defense action.
Okay.
Which we were like seeing with the Strait, wherever that was, with the shipping lanes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So like if you're a service member and somebody's threatening your life, like they're going to take your life, you literally have the authority to use self-defense. It's you don't need, an AUMF. But if you're conducting offensive operations and then Congress...
Yes, and the thing with Iran is that we went from Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, just like, I think it was 2 months prior, saying we have no evidence that Iran has a nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
To all of a sudden, it became like this 911 situation where Iran, they are working on a nuclear weapon. It wasn't even that they had one. It was just that they found evidence that they may be working on one.
Yeah.
And really that information came from Israel. It didn't even come from the US. And so then they found traces of like whatever component it is that they use for nuclear weapons outside of something. So then they just bombed the entire site.
Well, because weren't they saying they were enriching uranium more than what was necessary for civilian use for power?
Yes, but that does not... I mean, exactly what you're talking about. Like, in terms of self-defense, like, it wasn't like they had a nuclear weapon. They may have been working on one, but they didn't have one. And, sorry to say, if they had one, it wouldn't affect us in the U.S. Sorry, it wouldn't hurt us. So, who would it hurt? It could hurt Israel for sure, but it wouldn't hurt us. So... I don't know. It's just what you're saying is like, okay, well, Congress really should be the one to authorize something like that, especially because it wasn't an emergency situation.
Well, it's just weird because any type of law enforcement personnel, any type of military member, there's always an escalation of force procedure. So, like, you just go from nothing to bombing the shit out of it. It's like, well, now you're worried about war, when in reality, Congress could have gave him an authorization of use of military force with exempting boots on ground. And it doesn't include the actual military operation. So it's not like they're disclosing what they're going to do. So, because that was another thing I was hearing from like people that were like, Democrats would have disclosed that we were going to do something. It's like, we knew that he was going to do something after 60 days because he said he would. So why didn't the Republicans, who have a majority, have their president's back to put a seal of approval on, hey, it's okay for him to do something if there is an imminent threat?
Yeah.
And then after it happened, why didn't we have a disclosure of what that was and show us it? Because I still haven't seen any like formal reports. I don't know if you have, to like show us that it was an imminent threat.
No. And thank God it was only 12 days because it could have been really bad,
And the thing is, though, I do want the president to have that power if there is a legit imminent threat to be able to do something in a self-defensive position because it's necessary.
Now, isn't there like some law that says the president has so many days that he can act without Congress's approval?
I can't remember straight off the top of my head. I've wrote about it a lot in different comments and
I
stuff.
feel like it's 60 days. Like he has 60 days to, I don't know.
But it's not just for any action, though. It has to be like a self-defensive action to be able. It's like if I'm coming to attack you, you shouldn't have to go like ask somebody to protect yourself.
Yeah.
But when you're not being attacked and you're saying, well, my neighbor said they were going to shoot me, you know, like.
Well, but here's the thing with Iran is like, and we've had this situation with many instances that people say, okay, well, the president has so many days that he can act without Congress's approval. Okay, we have been in a tiff with Iran for years.
Yeah.
This isn't like it just came out of nowhere. And that's the thing, like people need to understand. I mean, even like the Ukraine-Russia, that didn't happen overnight. Tensions actually started under Trump's first administration.
Well, I was wondering if that whole thing could have been prevented outright.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because, so when I was in Syria, Russia was in Syria.
Okay.
Because they were working with the Syrian regime. Because the Syrian regime and it had its hands full with its own civil war. It couldn't actually like hold its ground after it had taken it.
Okay.
Because ISIS was working in that same area. So Russia was essentially holding some of those areas for them. And we were in communication with them because we were trying to avoid getting any type of conflict whatsoever, because that could have actually started World War III.
Wow.
And there was communication. Like we even had a deconfliction zone that was designated to like the whole world around us. Like, don't get close to us. We will blow you the fuck up, because we were just trying to avoid everything. So I'm like, when we saw them preparing an invasion on the border, Russia, why did Biden then therefore say, we're going to take all our U.S. personnel out of Ukraine? Because at that point, that's like, hey, here's a green flag. You're not going to kill any Americans. When like, we're avoiding World War III in Syria by, you know, having communication and avoiding Americans. So it's kind of like, in a way, we allowed them to be like, you can come in. You're not going to kill any of us and start World War III. Because Russia didn't want to start World War III. They were avoiding it in Syria. But most people don't know that.
Yeah, I don't know. This is why I like rely on like you and the other veterans, because like I don't know a ton about foreign policy, but I'm trying to learn, and there's so many ins and outs here. And I don't know, from what I've learned, Russia does not seem to be the big bad scary guy that we've made them out to be. Like Putin is definitely like a dictator. I mean, like, you know, he definitely like, I mean, he shouldn't have went into Ukraine. Like he shouldn't have done that. But we also should not have went into Ukraine and trying to get them to join NATO.
Well, and at the same time, then you could say, well, like technically, why did we go into Syria? Because the Syrian government at that point had declared us as a terrorist organization because we were helping partner forces that were technically militias that weren't. The whole thing is just complicated. And it's like, I don't even understand it as somebody who was on the ground. So to like see the situation and see what's happening and how it unfolds, it's like the farther that time goes by, it's like the less relevant I'll be of knowing. So it's more so I just want people to know like that was what was going on, because it's the individual actions of each person are way more important than they want us to realize. And like to collectively as a whole, all of us, if we think a certain way, would you say like talking about education impacting everything? If we don't actually believe in our freedoms and our constitutional authority, then it no longer exists.
Well, and that's why it makes me so upset when I see people all the time say like voting doesn't matter and stuff, and like things will never change. Like there's all this money in politics. Like us little people will never be able to, you know, overcome that. I'm like, that's exactly what they want us to think. So you don't go out and vote, and you don't like, because really, does money go into the voting booth with you? Does money hold your hand to circle a bubble? You know, no, it doesn't. You have the power over your vote, and we need to stop living in fear. And you know, it's so interesting right now because we see this a lot with third parties, like with Kennedy running for president. People are like, a third party will never win. So like, we have to pick one of the viable options. But a lot of people wanted to vote for Kennedy.
Yeah.
They just had fear that it was just going to win one of the other people the election. And we're even seeing this in New York City right now, even though it's not an independent. So a lot of people want the Republican to win, Sliwa, but they're saying we need to vote for the current mayor. Who's the current mayor? Davis? What's his last name? Adams. Eric Adams, yeah. So a lot of people want to vote for the current mayor, saying, well, he's better than the communist Democrat. And it's like, okay. And he's running as an independent. So it's so interesting to see.
Isn't Cuomo running as an independent too now?
Yes. So people would rather...
Don't do it, New York. Don't do it. I live in Western New York and you're ruining the state. Please fix this.
But it's just so funny because it's the same mindset. It's like the same propaganda point that like you're going to spoil the election. So now people are saying the Republican is going to spoil it for the independents. And it's like, okay, so I just think it's all a farce. It's just like whatever the propaganda is that they're spreading, that's like what's going to go. And it's like, how about we just put our big boy pants on and go vote for the person that we actually want? Like, I dream of the day that we can walk in the voting booth and vote out of hope for our future and not out of fear. And that right there, that is bigger than any money that could possibly be in politics today.
Well, you want to know what I think is really sad, though, is I think we've gotten to this position because people aren't paying attention enough and being aware in local politics. So the people that are incompetent and shisty in those situations are then moving through the ranks. And then by the time you hear about them, you're like, what's going on with this person? And it's like, you should really know who your local leaders are before they even get to those situations so you can weed them out and then not have to worry about them later.
This is a great transition because I wanted to talk about local politics.
Oh, shit.
You know, it's crazy, though, because a lot of people, they really just think about the president. Like, if you... I should do this one day. I should just walk on the street and ask people, like, name as many elected officials as you can. Yeah. Like, just straight up. Like, I don't care who they are. If they're local, state, you know, federal, just name as many of your elected officials as you can. Most people would
probably name you the officials that they aren't even under.
Well, I mean, they'll probably
media.
Yeah, they'll probably say the president. Yeah. They might say their governor, and they might say a couple of other governors that are, you know, like Newsom and stuff that are big talking points. But other than that, you think people know who their Secretary of State is, their Attorney General? Like, do you think everyone knows who the whole president's cabinet is? I sure as hell didn't until, like, this is my job now, and now I report on all this stuff. Now I could list you everyone in his cabinet, but most people can't. Yeah. Like, so they don't even know, like, what the cabinet really does, you know? So, or people don't even know what the president does. People think the president is like has dictator powers where they are in charge of everything. I'll see people talk about local issues and say President Trump needs to step in. Like, he has no jurisdiction over your local issues. So this is just like, your local government has so much control over your daily life, way more than the president does, and people have no idea. Yeah. So when you complain about your roads, who do you think funds your roads and takes care of those? Your local government. Your police, you have an issue with your police, who do you think funds those and are in charge of your police? Your local government. Some people vote in their sheriff, some people don't, but a lot of sheriffs are voted in. So you're literally voting for the head of your police station. You know, your parks, that's all your local government. Your schools, if you want to complain about how awful the school system is today and how much money is getting funneled to the school system, that's all local. Okay.
Unless you're in New York State where they're trying to ban all cell phones, then that becomes state problems.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm kind of, I don't know.
I get mad about that because I think it's overreach.
You do?
Well, so like even the school that I went to, they have a cell phone policy, so enforce it. You have a board, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Make your own policy, enforce it. It doesn't take millions of dollars to make kids not use cell phones in school.
What about like lockers for your phones, like where they're in the classroom still?
I think that's pointless. It's just an extra added expense. You already have a locker, don't you? Leave it in your locker.
Oh, well, yeah.
Like, it's just so weird. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to me. And like, I'm 33. We grew up as the generation that first had cell phones in school. Mm-hmm. Like, if you were using it in class, the teacher just took it and put it in their desk and then gave it to the principal, and then you had to go to the office to get it back.
I don't know if I was just great at hiding it, but I was always on my phone. But I have like attention problems. Like in school, I thought the teachers always worked too slow. I'm like, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, just give me the homework so I can move on. You know. So I was scrolling a lot, but I got all A's, so it was okay. But anyway, getting back to local politics. So I'm very passionate about local politics, and I may have got you involved.
I wish that I didn't pay attention so much now, because it's bad. It is so bad. And this isn't even like, oh, they're doing this and it's just a little inconvenient. Like, they are stomping on straight up constitutional rights, and people are like, what's happening? And then they're lying about it in the public hearings.
Yeah, there's so much. One of these days, maybe I'll move and not get involved in local politics so I can have a break. But now that I'm involved, and I got so many in my community involved too, and they're telling me like, I can't just not look now. Now that I've looked, I can't go back. Like when you see everything happening, it's like, oh my gosh, like, you know, the big thing was that they just raised taxes 38% in my town, and people are like, "Oh my gosh!" Like if we
blame the other party, blame the other party.
Well, but people, I am really proud of my community, because they are like stepping up, and they're saying maybe if we were involved sooner, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
So they are taking responsibility, and that's really important. Like, we always want to blame everyone else. We want to blame the politicians for poor policy and everything. And it's like, who voted for them? Who put them in office? Who the hell keeps putting Nancy Pelosi in office? I want to talk to them people that are voting for her. Mitch McConnell, like all these people that like should be very well in retirement. They started getting
elected when my mom was like in her 20s. Like late teens. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
And like, we all want to cry term limits, but it's like, just stop voting for them. Like, it's really that simple, guys. And more people need to run for office. Anyway, I could go on all day about this stuff, obviously. But so I talk a lot about local politics and get a lot of people involved. You started getting involved. So tell us what's been happening in your community.
Essentially, like, you know, we got on this massive health movement with all my chronic condition stuff. And then I was like, you know, I started following Joel Salatin, and I'm like, he's got some really awesome processes. Like, I'd love to do this. I grew up on a farm. We can get back to it. I can introduce it to the kids. And then I started looking into like local laws and where I could do it. And my parents, you know, they live in a right to farm community. So I'm like, okay, that's perfect. I can go back there. So I was like, I better start paying attention. And my sister told me about the Forsyth Tavern. And it was established in 1805, I believe. And it was prior to the town and the county. And essentially, they've been fighting the town for like 8 years to stay open. They even took them to state court, and they won. They got their permits back. And now they have an inspection coming up where they need their certificate of occupancy. And the building inspector said that they have violations, will not specifically tell them what they need to change. And they're just stonewalling them, waiting for that inspection date, so that way they can get closed down.
Wow.
And so I showed up to see what was going on. And then when I saw how the town board was literally stonewalling this family who's trying to not just revive this farm and tavern like for the town, but for the country. Like, they literally got it brought into like the historic record through the Department of Interior.
Wow.
Like, it was, the tavern itself was used during the War of 1812 to house troops.
Wow.
And like gunpowder and stuff in the barn. So I'm like, this is a part of American history in the Niagara frontier. Instead of hindering a family and like a small business trying to like educate the community and bring something else to the community, like, just let them open.
Yeah.
It's not complicated. And I show up and I see the way they're talking to him. The supervisor saying that like, oh, I've been in support of this the whole time. And then they also had botched for their liquor license. They had to vote for the recommendation to the state. They didn't know how to throw the motion. Then they threw a motion to oppose it, and then they all said no, which means they are for the liquor license, but then they put it in as passing as against the liquor license. So then I'm like, writing to the state liquor authority, like, you can't listen to this vote. Like, that has to be disregarded. It was done improperly. I'm reaching out all these different representatives. I'm like, this is an insane, awesome piece of our community that should be taken care of.
And how long have they been closed?
So they've been like trying to circumvent all the rules and regulations to run. But you can't, with what they're trying to do, because they want it to be like a education center and like where they can serve some drinks and do some different things. It's hard to actually make money if you're like, there's a donation box at the door.
Yeah.
And then it's like, just help yourself. Mm-hmm. So they've been circumventing this stuff, and they've been trying to comply, but the town won't even get back to them. And so I showed up, saw how they were treating them, and then I pretty much yelled at the council and said, like, this isn't appropriate. This isn't cool.
So just real quick, I want to play for everyone.
Oh, God. Enjoy.
I want to play for everyone the clip of you doing a public comment at your meeting about this tavern. You got a little spicy, so a warning to everyone. But by the end of it, you're like, damn. So I'm going to play that real quick for everyone.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Miller. I'm a medically retired disabled veteran. I was born and raised in Cambria. My parents still farm in this community. I'm seriously considering investing my future in this town. I want to preserve what makes Cambria special and help it grow in the right direction. I served in Syria during Operation Inherent Resolve under a Special Operations Joint Task Force where I worked directly with 5th Group Special Forces. I've seen what happens when governments lose the trust of the people firsthand. I didn't risk my life defending liberty overseas to come home and watch transparency and accountability crumble in the place I call home. Instead of supporting a family that's trying to restore and share one of the oldest buildings in Western New York, this board has made it harder every step of the way. Revoking approvals, opposing licenses, acting behind closed doors, or at least looking like it. That's not transparency, and it's not leadership. Your job is to facilitate families who are trying to preserve and build up this community. But this family has been blocked, they've been undermined, and they've been failed. That failure doesn't just impact them. It sends a message that ripples to every resident who wants to invest in Cambria's future. I personally know roughly 24 Cambria residents who support the tavern and want to make their presence known, but they're afraid. Afraid of retaliation against their businesses or families while quietly pay a price for speaking out against you. That should never happen in a free community. When citizens fear their own government, something is seriously broken, and that's happening right now. I serve this country because I believe in liberty and accountability and in the right of the people to be heard without fear. I'm asking this board to live up to those same values. Reverse course, be transparent, and do right by the people who are trying to make Cambria better, not drive them away. I showed up early and came into your working meeting. You have bigger fish to fry than this family and this tavern. You leave
So, if you had to do it again, would you do the same thing again?
I think so, because it now made me realize that it's not just incompetence. Mm-hmm. So now they know that there's a fire and a passion in their community, and now we can actually turn that into a movement.
Yeah, I was really happy to see how many people showed up to that meeting. You know, a lot of local meetings, there's maybe one person there.
This next one, I think we're going to have people standing outside. Mm-hmm. Because he's telling everyone that the new law they're proposing is administrative. It's just updating the E-code when it's not. It's actually allowing a building inspector to come in and out of anyone's property at any time, revoke permits without due process. And it's like, this is absolutely insane. They're changing farms from 5 acres to 7 acres in a right to farm community. It's also an ag district, so there's different ag laws that they're probably messing with. And then because they've been fighting this tavern for 8 years, it just happens that a lot of the stuff that they're changing is so they would have been able to enforce that. And there's like cruel and unusual punishment. It's like most zoning regulations. It's like, oh, here's a small fine. Now it's like every day that you don't do this, it's a fine and up to 15 days of imprisonment.
That's crazy.
So it's like if a building inspector gives you a permit and then they show up later and they don't like what you're doing, and then they're like, oh, well, you've been in violation it's been a week. So now it's, 15 times that.
And is this because of crazy left woke policies?
No, they're all Republicans. So they should be for small government. They should be for not regulating the community and letting them do what they want to do.
I mean, this is what's crazy about this story is I am actually for smaller government. When you actually, one of these days, I'm going to do a podcast going through exactly how much government we have. I mean, think about it. Like when you go to vote, there's a ton on your ballot. But
and the process that they get those endorsements too, and how it changes state to state is crazy too.
Yeah. And so, yeah. And if you're like part of the Democrat Party, you don't even have primaries all the time. So, oh man,
good luck with that.
That's a whole
8-hour
different story.
podcast.
But it's just crazy because like we vote for like school boards and like sheriffs and stuff. Like we have local government, county government, state government, federal government. We have all this government, and yet people just think about the president, you know? So we need to get more involved locally. They will take your rights away so fast. Even in my town, my planning commission talks about doing eminent domain. That's where the government literally steals your property, and they think that that's like normal. And no, that should not be happening. So people need to get involved. I was going somewhere with that, and I totally lost my train of thought. But, this is what I was going to say. So I'm a firm believer that I want freedom to do what I want to do on my own property. Where government regulation needs to come in is when it starts to hurt someone else. So I talk about this with like Roundup. Roundup, we know, causes cancer. And so the company that owns Roundup, Bayer, they have paid out billions of dollars in lawsuits and have been sued over 100,000 times because people keep getting cancer from Roundup. But when you use Roundup on your own lawn, it doesn't just hurt you. It gets in the water, gets in the soil, gets in the food. It hurts everyone. That's where government regulation needs to step in, which is interesting because Congress right now is they hid it in an appropriations bill, which is crazy to me. Like they hid it on purpose because they thought that we wouldn't see it. But we have some good, diligent people in the medical freedom movement. So they found it, and it would prevent the EPA from regulating pesticide companies at all. So they would not be able to force them to put a cancer label. Because right now, Roundup doesn't even say on the bottle that may cause cancer. You know, when you buy cigarettes, it's all over the thing, may cause lung cancer, stuff like that. But Roundup, they don't have to warn you.
Didn't they just change the ingredients too and made them worse?
That's what, I haven't looked too much into that, but that's what some people have said, that the ingredients are actually worse now. But these chemicals are illegal in other countries, and that's what's crazy. So, again, going back to it, that's where government regulation can be a good thing. Like very basic minimum. The EPA should be forcing them to put a label on that it is a carcinogen. Like that's so basic to me. And obviously the EPA thinks that that's basic because Congress is trying to tie their hands to not let them do that. So if anyone's listening, please contact your representatives and tell them to take out, I think it's section 453 from the Interior Appropriations Bill, because that is a very dangerous path, because vaccines right now are the only product in all 50 states where you cannot sue the manufacturer if they injure you. And now pesticide companies want that same type of immunity. Once we give it to a second company, everyone's going to want that. Car companies are going to be like, oh, if we make a faulty car and you get in an accident and die, nothing you can do. Like it's not going to stop here. It's just going to keep going and going. So we need to take that section out of the Interior bill. And there are two bills right now. One is to repeal the PrEP Act, which gives immunity for the COVID vaccine specifically. And the other one, I forgot the number for it. I'll put it in the show notes. But there is another bill to remove the immunity from the vaccine manufacturers in general, which that we're the closest we've ever have been to being able to do that. So there's already 28 co-signers, and we need to make that happen.
Isn't Massey part of that?
Yep. It's all Republican, which is just crazy. Like Democrats used to be the one of like healthcare and stuff. Like why would you, and like Democrats are against the big everything. Like they're against the rich. Why would you want to give big pharma a free pass? Like they can injure you and then they can walk away, their hands clean. And you know who you actually sue? If you get injured by a vaccine, you actually sue the government, and the taxpayers are paying for your injuries. Like it doesn't make any sense at all. Anyway, big tangent. But Going back to local government.
But that's why you need to get involved.
Yes.
Because you got to pay attention to what's going on. And the biggest thing is, we always talk about party politics. Mm-hmm. But when you get involved with local stuff, that's where you start realizing the lines blur. It doesn't really matter. You just need people that are competent and they believe in ideology that's rooted in our Constitution.
There is someone in my town who is like so far left blue, but when it comes, like, we completely disagree on a lot of things. But when it comes to local politics, we actually like have a lot of similar things. And it's because like there's no party politics in local issues. Like roads, if you need to fix your roads, is that a right or left issue? It's neither.
Everyone uses the road.
Okay. Your clean, nice parks, is that a right or left issue? Yeah. So it's like the party politics doesn't matter. The only thing that's really kind of like a party issue locally is how you spend money and how far government goes, like government overreach, But as you're talking in your town, like they're all Republican and they're still trying to violate your rights. So it's not a party issue. And I mean, that's that. So get involved locally. Is there anything else you want to say about that?
In our generation, I think it's like 99% of everyone I talk to, you're all upset, but you don't show up to town board meetings. Mm-hmm. It's literally the number one thing. You could be the first person to walk in, and when you see the look on all their faces when they're like, oh shit, someone's here, and then you're like, oh, something bad's going on here. And that's just the start of it. Then when you find out what's going on, don't be afraid to speak up.
The one thing, a lot of people talk about money having all this influence in politics, which obviously it does. Our politicians are bought and paid for. The one thing that's scarier than money for our politicians is the thought of not being reelected, because then money definitely doesn't matter if they're not reelected. The thing is, we have just not been scary enough to them. Like, we have the power to be scary and to get them to vote how we want them to vote. We just don't have good follow through. Like, everyone always says, like, primary Lindsey Graham and stuff like that. Okay, well, do it. Like, actually do it.
Yeah.
And once we start doing it to 1, 2, 3, then they're going to learn that when we start throwing around that we're going to primary you, we mean it.
Yeah, it's
so
not
you
just
better
an empty threat anymore.
Exactly. So stop voting for your donors and actually vote for the people. Period. So we need to actually show up, and again, that mindset I talked about where people say, oh, voting doesn't matter. They want you to think that, so they're nice and cozy in their office and they don't get voted out. So the minute you realize that the people have all the power, everything will change. So I'm going to leave that on my note. I'm going to give it to you now. I don't know if you thought about this at all. I know you watch my show, so you know what I'm going to ask you. But if there was one thing that you wish people knew, what would be that one thing?
If we don't show up to things, it's all going to go to shit. It's the truth. So make sure you actually show up and do something. I got kids now. I served my country. And I'm kind of afraid of where we're going. It's not necessarily what I imagined. But we can fix this. But it's not going to be by just sitting around and bitching about it. You actually have to physically do something. And it's good to be on social media too. But that doesn't push people's buttons to make things happen. So just show up.
Are you saying that it's not effective to be a keyboard warrior?
No, I'm not effective. People will just tell you you're a bot.
Dang it. So yeah, show up in person, rock their world at a local meeting when they're used to only 1 or 2 people showing up, pack the room and see what they think.
And use AI now to look up E-code and just verify, because I've used it, and it's like kind of how when you post stuff, it's like you want to make sure it's good. And if you mess up, just acknowledge it, because people just want truth and transparency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't be afraid to admit when you were wrong about something, because then it just makes you look even worse. But where can people find you if they want to follow you?
So on Twitter, I use Joe F. and Miller. And then Instagram is like Not Your Average Joe, I think. But I post like local stuff on Facebook now. We have Niagara County Government Watch page we're starting because of what's happening in the town of Cambria and Forsyth Tavern. So if you'd like to support us, feel free. We're just trying to get more people involved that actually care about their constitutional rights and the American way of life.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much for coming here. Thank you so much for serving your country. It's incredible everything you went through, and just like giving you, literally, when we met, I said, we need to give veterans a megaphone. And here you are. I'm giving you your megaphone to talk about these things. So thank you for bringing awareness to all this stuff and being a good friend to me. So thanks for coming on. I will tell everyone I need a vacation. Not that it's actually going to be a vacation, but I am going to take like a month off before I release any more episodes. So I'll still be doing all the social media on X, Twitter. I do want to start to write some Substack articles, so watch out for that. I want to talk about if the American dream is still alive today. So that'll be an interesting article I've been feeling like I need to write. So make sure you're following me. Make sure you follow Joe. And I will see you in September sometime. Make sure you're following socials and I'll let you know exactly when. See you later.